Welcome into Three Questions with Ivan Maisel, where Ivan brings his insight on all things college football to us here on a weekly basis. Ivan, usually we hit on different topics with team-specific questions. I want to broaden it out a little bit this time and talk about the transfer portal, because portal season is very much here. You got grad transfers now jumping in, a lot of folks declaring their intention to transfer. I just want to ask you, as someone who's been around the game for an extended period of time, is the portal and NIL good for college football?
Yeah. I mean, we all had to get used to it. Those of us who have you so politely put it, been around the game for a while. But of course, I mean, if you're going to allow a coach, the logic was impeccable. If coaches can pick up and leave, why can't players? And eventually that overcame the defense of, well, because we've always done it this way. You know, you don't have to always do it that way. And I feared then and still fear a little bit that you're going to kind of put that one and done feel to college football that has taken sort of some of the luster off of college basketball. You know, you don't get to watch a team develop in college basketball anymore. And I think if you allow kids to hop from school to school, there will be some of that in college football. But college football rosters are so big, it's not going to be wholesale the way it is in basketball, where you only have 5 guys on the floor. So I've overcome my reservations about it, and I think it's fine. I think it'll work out just fine.
Well, the thing that's a little bit interesting comparing coaching mobility and player mobility is whenever a coach leaves or leaves for another job, there's usually some sort of monetary buyout that has to happen. Like there's still some sort of reparations, repercussions with them leaving that school. With the player, it's like, hey, I got one transfer. I might as well use it and see what I'm worth. And that's one of the things that we're seeing. I want to get your questions on, or one thing that we're being told we're going to see is these big-time players, good players on good teams, jumping in the portal to leverage NIL and say, yeah, maybe I'm at X school right now, but feel like I'm worth a little bit more. I'm going to jump in the portal and see if I can get more at another school. If not, maybe I'll come back. Kind of portal shopping is what I like to call it. What are your thoughts on that whole narrative that we might see play out here soon?
So, JD, you really think that they would put money ahead of their education? No, I'm kidding.
I don't, not guys like us, but I know other people have different values than yourself, and I just want to, get it out there a little bit.
I mean, that's where we are, and if you ask any coach, and we've talked about it here, the first question they get from any recruit is, what am I worth? And why wouldn't they ask that once they're on campus and established and have established value in the marketplace? So it's made, all of a sudden the phrase roster management, which has been in the NFL forever, has become a bylaw of college football. And you've got to figure that out in every iteration that it means. And that's a pretty big one.
Well, we talk a lot about the players and their mobility, and you and I spoke a little bit before this taping. When a player jumps in the portal to potentially leverage, hey, what am I worth, and could I get more at this school? You could have a coach say, okay, you may or may not come back to us. You say you want to test the waters. Well, we may or may not have a spot for you when you come back, because apparently they're allowed to then cancel their scholarship. And, I guess that's going to be a thing that I think plays out more for players of, more maybe a middle caliber, as opposed to those 5-star guys or those, All-American kind of guys. Because I think for someone, and we used the example of Bryce Young on this program in a different video, because Lane Kiffin had an interview saying Bryce Young should jump in the portal just to see what he's worth. Bryce Young likely already knows what he's worth at any number of schools based on, agency or trainers or back channels, whatever it is, not using Bryce Young specifically, but as the example, that for the All-American kind of guys, they probably already have their understanding of what their value is. So if someone like Bryce Young did jump in the portal, like a Caleb Williams or any number of Heisman caliber guys, it's probably the real deal, and they probably know where they're going. So I'll end with this question for you, Ivan. There's supposed to be adults supervising these teams, and those adults now are being impacted, being head coaches with how they're hired and things like that. What is your thought process around how that hiring cycle will be impacted in this age of the portal and NIL?
Well, it's interesting to me, JD, is because the portal opens Monday, December 5th, ADs are trying to get their hires done by December 5th, which is there's pressure to get it done now. And for years, we've seen them leak into December. There was always deals made at the National Football Foundation College Football Hall of Fame dinner, which is traditionally next week, in its traditional spot, I mean. But now, ADs are trying to get the hire done so that they've got a guy in place when the portal opens. And what the effect of that moving that deadline up has been is that you get some guys that aren't going to leave their team because they've got big goals ahead of them. Now we saw it with Luke Fickell last year, saying to Notre Dame he couldn't leave now and staying at Cincinnati an extra year. And I think we saw it this week with Willie Fritz. I mean, Georgia Tech wanted to move now. He's playing for the American Championship and a New Year's Six Bowl. He's not going to leave this week. So it's fascinating, the law of unintended consequences. And I think opening the portal this early is going to contribute a little bit to a little more coaching stability.
And I've always had a ton of respect for the coaches that do wait until after the bowl game or after the season and kind of see it through with that program, because you go from the summer all the way into the new year or late December and stick with those guys, and you expect them to be accountable to you, accountable to each other. I mean, I appreciate the coaches that walk out that practice. I think that's very admirable. Ivan, appreciate you joining us, my man. You headed to Dallas this weekend, is that correct?
Yep, going to the Big 12 Conference Championship game, watch TCU try to bring it into the barn.
Whole lot of purple in that one. Well, we'll be looking for you on the sideline. And thank you for making some time to jump on here, as you always do on a weekly basis. Folks, if you have not yet followed Ivan on Twitter or subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel, would encourage you to do so. Content like this every single week. Ivan, thanks so much and safe travels.
Thanks, JD.
Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.